All right, looks like we're live. Today is Thursday, June 25th, and this is our meeting for community outreach related items for Backdrop CMS. I was just looking over the agenda from 2 weeks ago. It looks like we wanted to write a blog post announcing the new Backdrop initiatives. We haven't gotten that out yet. I haven't checked to see if there is a draft. Looks like if there is a draft, it is not on the website as a draft. It might be in a Google Doc somewhere. But I know I haven't been working on it, so I don't know. I think Gregory might have mentioned something about working on it last week. We do have these two new initiatives that we're going to be working on. One of them is making it so that you can use Backdrop without needing to be custom theme developer, and the other one is to try and get a telemetry module into Core to help us to collect information on what active Backdrop sites are doing. So that'll help us make more informed decisions in the future about features people might want or things we shouldn't remove, for example. I think there's room for more core initiatives in the future, but that's what we've got going on today. It would be great to have a blog post just announcing the fact that Backdrop has core initiatives. And then in the future, we can follow that up with more specific posts about initiatives if necessary. I don't know what's going on in social media land. I noticed Nate found a great post in the forum recently that he tweeted about, which was interesting, but I know I haven't been scheduling tweets for the last week. So usually what I like to do in outreach meeting is ask people if there's anything that is super relevant to what they're working on right now and see if any of that is worth highlighting or promoting, either in terms of cool things people are doing with Backdrop or things that might be happening in the world we might want to talk about. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with the coronavirus that has changed. I think, for example, the Drupal 7 release date was just pushed out a year. That buys everybody another year to decide what they're going to do with their Drupal 7 site. So it might be worth talking about something like that. I don't know necessarily what that looks like specifically for Backdrop, but it could be a good conversation starter if nothing else. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts.
What I'm currently working on is a solution with or using the entity registration module. The colleague from Las Vegas, if I got the name, Jeff, helped me to migrate the module entity registration, and this is a great solution. I'm really happy what I'm working about, but we'll be ready in 2 weeks, and I will send a message when it's ready and blog about it and make tweet about it. But it's about a sailing school in Switzerland.
That sounds great.
Registration. Yeah.
That's really cool. Was it Joseph or Jason?
Joseph, Jason. One is the father, one is the son. I'm not sure about
it. Joseph,
from
the son, and
Las
Jason.
Vegas. Joseph.
Okay.
Joseph. Yep.
Great. Yeah, they've been helping me out a little bit too, so that's great. Luke, I know you just popped in. I don't know if you're able to participate in this meeting, but we were just chatting about, I don't know if there's anything going on in the world right now that you think is worth promoting Backdrop wise. Sarvastri, I noticed you unmuted yourself. Do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I have something. The new version of Mautic just came out not long ago. So it's now ready to go. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. You were looking for a way to send out newsletters and mail and all that to everybody. And Mautic, it looks pretty amazing. I don't know if you took a look at the site 2 weeks ago or not.
I looked at the site. I didn't actually test it, but now that they have a new version, sounds like a good reason to give it a try.
3.0.
That's great.
right, I'm able to talk if this is Luke. Do you want me to write that blog post about initiatives? I feel like I might have promised to do that, but I don't. I forgot. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I would love it if you had time to do that.
I think I can work that in there. Sure. I mean, I'm wending through the processes. You know, I've got questions and suggestions, and sort of, you know, I'm wrestling with it. So I can spew some of that to the page, I think, without it being too off topic, and maybe we can use that as a way to guide it towards something usable.
That'd be great. I think Gregory might have had some thoughts on it too, but I'm not sure if he volunteered to actually write the post or not. So it'd be good to get someone to own it. And then if you have, you know, thoughts on a page and you want review, I think that's something that Gregory and I would be happy to help with.
Yeah. No, I think I volunteered to write it last week, but
Okay.
I haven't. So I'll re-volunteer and try to get to that.
That would be wonderful. I'm going to put your name here so we know next time to ask.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you deliver a very brief update on this initiative thing?
Sure. So Luke, this will be good. You can help me if I go astray here, but essentially, the way that we decide to add features to core is that there's usually an initiative in the queue, and it gets an issue in the queue, and it gets somebody who sort of becomes its champion and is able to follow up on it every week and make sure that it moves forward. And we had so much success with this core issue advocacy that we said we needed to do the same thing, but sort of on a bigger scale. So rather than having one person focus on one issue, if we have one person focus on something that we feel like Backdrop needs, then we could have the same sort of driving force behind it to make sure it gets moved forward. Mm-hmm. So a core initiative can be something like a single issue, but what would be better is if it was something like translation in Backdrop, like a much bigger thing, and that would involve not necessarily like a handful of issues in the core queue, but it might also include updates to the localization server. It might also include getting translators involved. It's not just one concrete thing that you can push forward discreetly. A great example is Luke is working on this initiative that's trying to make it so that people can use Backdrop without needing to know how to be a custom themer. And there's a whole bunch of stuff associated with that involved, making themes better out of the box, making it easier for people to find them, easier for people to test them, easier for people to modify them without needing to write code. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of little pieces that are involved in that, and trying to get sort of a big picture perspective of what's needed, and then identify those little problem areas and move them forward is sort of the goal here. Mm-hmm. And so a core initiative is something that isn't necessarily going to end in one cycle. Like usually the issues, you're like, okay, I want this to go into Backdrop 117. But a core initiative could be something like, we're going to work on this for the whole next year. And that way we can get little things in to maybe each core release, we can get little things in to backdropcms.org or wherever else they need to go. And hopefully a year from now, we'll be able to look back and be like, look at all these things we did that made it easier for people to not have to write custom themes. So that's kind of the big picture goal of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, but my interpretation of it, at least the thing I'm running with it, it's a way to establish sort of blue sky goals. Things that you feel that Backdrop should be able to do, and conceivably can, but you don't necessarily know all the pieces. You don't know if it's big or small. Maybe it's a solved problem. Maybe it's an unsolvable problem, and you don't have to really commit to it being solvable or how you're going to solve it. It's really about stating the question. It's stating the desire and the need. Now we have a spot that you can look for it. It's in the forums, in forums.backdropcms.org. There's a category, a section for initiatives. So if you go there, you can see there's about half a dozen of them that are defined. But again, this is a relatively new process. We're still trying to get a handle on what the possibilities are, what this gives us, what it costs, and we're working our way through that. But you know, as if you want to go into the forums, you can kind of see in its nascent form where it is now, and you know, that's where you can look at it.
Yeah.
So we just picked the first two. Drupal has a handful of initiatives that it works on every release. We'll probably see how these first two go and add additional ones in the future. Hopefully we'll be able to conclude some of these and get some new ones in, but there might be some that will be sort of never ending. Like if we had something that's like, we're going to continue to make it as easy as possible to upgrade back from one version to the next, then that'll be something we'll consider with every next version of Backdrop. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the most important thing right now is that we have someone who's able to be that advocate for the initiative right now to make sure it moves forward. So that's why we picked two that we knew we had two people who were going to be supporting them. So Luke is working on this one, and Jeff is working on the telemetry one. And I think that'll be a good first pass at it. And then come around next cycle, if we have more people who want to do other initiatives, they can post them in the forum. We can talk about them. If there's one already there that people decide that they want to work on, we could reevaluate that one. So yeah, it just sort of gives us a place for people to identify areas that they think Backdrop needs to focus on.
That's great. Okay.
In that way.
I've heard some.
I need to get in touch with Jeff actually and see what his perspective is, and you know, because from my angle, trying to figure out where the levers and knobs and dials are that I fly this thing with is not necessarily obvious. So maybe I'll team up with him to see what we both can see on that.
Yeah. I think your initiative and his are a little different in that the answer to his will be a single module that goes into core, but the discussion process for both of them will be the same. Like he still has to go through the like, what goes in it, what's important, how do we handle that, like all of those conversations. We still need a place to have those, and so I think like how you get there will be the same path, but his finished product will probably be a much more neatly packaged product than what you're going to be doing, which is fixing all of the things in different places.
So I'll keep that in mind. I won't assume that something that's working in one world should work the same way in the other world.
It'd still be good to collaborate, though. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, maybe to look, I really like what I've seen so far from your initiative. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wasn't aware how the process is, but you keep it going, and I like it. Really like it. I'm also in contact with the two other European developers from Austria and Germany, and we like it really.
Oh yeah, no, well, we'll jump in. We're definitely thirsty for more involvement. You know, the main thing I'm fighting with at this point is sort of silence, right? Like you know, is this microphone on? trying to figure out if it's time to resolve something, move on to the next. And you know, we're making mistakes and backtracking and figuring it out, but I think that's okay. That's part of the process.
Yeah, but I think it's the right thing to work on at this time, at this status of where Backdrop is. I really like it.
All right, great.
I will contribute, but first I have to finish some projects, and then have 1 week of vacation, and maybe mid of July.
Yeah, I should warn you, the speed that it's going in the past probably doesn't reflect the speed that it's necessarily going to go at. Like I'm hoping to kind of press the gas and move it forward at a quicker clip than it's been going so far. I might not succeed at that, but that's you know, that's my aspiration.
That's also just part of figuring out how to do initiatives though too, where like I think everything's going to be a little slow until we figure this out, and then it'll all continue to speed up. But yeah, part of learning. So
yep.
All right, well, I don't have anything else super urgent on the agenda, but I did want to kind of open it up and see if there's anything else that we should be talking about specifically relating to outreach. I know there are a bunch of Drupal events that have gone online this year that we took advantage of doing Drupal, well, previously Drupal Delphia, now CMS Philly. And we had a pretty good online presence there. I've been requested to participate in Drupal Camp Colorado. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they want to participate in that we should be doing a better job of promoting, but that might be something that could be valuable. I think a lot of these online events are going to have, I mean, I don't really know how it's going to, my gut says that an online event could have a larger attendance than a in-person one because it can reach a broader audience, but I also don't know if there's a desire to attend an online event in the same way there is desire to attend a person event. So that it'll be interesting to see, but it will at least make it much easier for many of us to attend events in places where we might not normally be able to travel to. So that's something to think about.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see, you know, DrupalCon 2 weeks from now. I'm very, very aware of what it's like to go to a DrupalCon and what it's like to not go to one. And I've you know, watched the YouTube videos from DrupalCons I didn't make it to in the past, and it wasn't at all the same. And it'll just be interesting to see how much of that it impacts. I'm going to monologue right into like a related topic. You know, I'm also heavily involved with BADCamp, and at the last 2 meetings, I keep telling them that the Backdrop Summit has not been canceled at BADCamp, and you know, reassuring them, no, we're definitely summiting there. But sort of related to that, we're exploring through that the whole idea of online conferences, and you know, relevant to Outreach, our meeting here. It's a double-edged sword. Like these abilities to do things remotely without a particular place opens up possibilities at the same time that it closes off like more possibilities. But it opens up some things. You know, the way DrupalCon and BADCamp are being put on with tools that actually don't cost that much. Things like Hopin and, you know, things along that line. Perhaps we should have a Backdrop conference. You know, like just kind of pick a date and be like, hey, look at that. You know, instead of the weekly meetings where this is, you know, send out invites, having a thing. We don't necessarily have to wait for BADCamp to do that. We can just, you know, decide to do it for better or worse. And, you know, maybe we should. So that's the thing I'm throwing into the conversation. Like, should we do a virtual Backdrop conference?
Yeah, I think we had that on the agenda a couple weeks ago, and decided to talk about it again after CMS Philly. It's now after CMS Philly. So yeah, sure. I mean, I don't see any downside. I think we need to make sure we had enough content to fill whatever time we wanted to do it. I would also want to make sure some of the people who've been most active in organizing other Backdrop in-person events were available to give us some direction, even if not to, you know, organize it. Like I know Tim does the Backdrop event in Minneapolis. I would like to have, you know, more people who are involved in the Backdrop event with BADCamp. I know we had some excellent help last year on the schedule from the Flats. So yeah, but just I wouldn't even know how to pick a date without a physical location. Like, you know, 10 years of experience running in-person events. I'm like, oh yeah, you look at the calendar and you see when the football game is and you choose a different date. But now, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should just pick some arbitrary point in the future, make sure there's no like huge online tech conference that week, and give it a go.
Well, here, let me throw out a like off the cuff suggestion.
Sure.
Like different from a conference where the general feeling is, you know, experts and people who are deep into the scene joining each other and kind of learning from each other. We might gain some value out of viewing this as more of a broadcast event, where we're trying to sort of establish a critical mass of, okay, if you want to find out about Backdrop, here's a thing. And then we can get together with the regulars and maybe each, like rather than have it sort of secretive, like, ooh, no one knows what my session's going to be, like assign stuff. Like, all right, this is what we want to cover. This is what we want the world to know about Backdrop. Here's like, we're going to have, 5, 10 talks in some sort of structure. People can sign up for it. It doesn't have to be limited to anything. Like if you want to propose other things, typically would be, if somebody wants to propose and wants to do something, we'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead, do that. But we might be able to put a little bit more structure than conferences have had in the past and make it more of like, almost like a recital. Like, hey, world, in case you weren't paying attention, there's this stuff you might want to know about. And, put it together with a few months in advance, schedule it for August or September or something like that. So that it doesn't we have to throw it all together in the week before. We know what's coming on. We can tune it. Anyway, that's concept.
It's very interesting what Apple did this year because they couldn't have an in-person event either. I don't know if you watched their.
Oh, great example. The WWDC. Good model.
WWDC, they had an amazing event and it was like a broadcast event. It was pre-developed. Everybody should take a look at that, especially because they've announced some new Macintoshes that will run everything, I think, probably. They're going to include virtualization in the next system, and they're going to be using no more Intel chips very shortly, within 2 years.
Yeah, I'm very pessimistic that they're going to achieve what they say they're going to, but I love that model. Like I hadn't thought about that at all, but yeah, no, exactly. We should do that. We should do what Apple did, in our version of it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go give that a watch. That sounds like good education in all areas, event management and Apple world stuff. So
they really did such a bang up job of it. It was really fast paced and spot on and no gaps and waiting around or any of that. It just flowed really well. It was very powerful. They had some interesting news to report and whatnot. It was well done. I think it's better, better than the other ones.
The keynote wasn't, some guy in a turtleneck talking. It was a very choreographed. There were dozens of people involved. Each one was like well produced and punchy. It was great. It really was the keynote. I agree.
that sounds great. Okay, so I was just looking at the calendar for August and September. We have September 1st is Code Free, September 15th is Backdrop release day. We could do something shortly after that. So it would either be, I would vote for before September 1st, and actually maybe not even before, because people are probably going to be trying to rush in last minute changes. So I would vote for after September 15th. We could do it like really soon after September 15th, like the 18th or something, like even that week, which might be a good opportunity to promote what's in this version of Backdrop. Or we could give it a little bit more space and do something like the first week of October, something like that.
No, I like the idea of capitalizing on the excitement of the new release, right? The world doesn't have to know it's not that exciting. We can make this one exciting.
Okay, so the 18th I picked because it was a Friday, and I figured if you're gonna have to take a day off work, people like to take Fridays off work. But some of these events, I don't know. I don't know with online events, if you would rather like have it running while you're at work. If you can't get day off work, do you want to give up a weekend day to sit inside at a computer? I don't know. My preference, I think, is for Friday, but we could do Friday, Saturday with some kind of like sprint or collaborative effort happening on Saturday also. What do you think, Luke? One day?
I like the 2-day plan, but as a very like plan thing, like have the event be Friday, have like a follow-up sprint on Saturday, and make it clear, because a lot of people will, you know, the ones that can't watch on Friday, or you know, or for some reason the weekend's better, you know, we want to be able, they can sort of watch things that are recorded and then still have, like, they haven't missed it yet, you know, still reach the same people, participate. We want them to feel interactive, I think. I don't know, I mean, I like the idea. 2 days doesn't seem unreasonable for like us, right? For the core group that spends a lot of time doing this stuff. That seems like, okay, just schedule that time in there. And I think I just said what you said. Yeah, like have the main thing run on Friday, but have it not be dead air Saturday. Have something happening on Saturday so that people can still feel involved. And then over the course of it, have created a thing so that for the year after that, we can point to, like, you know, hey, I'm new to, you know, what's this backdrop thing? Well, you know, here's this recital. Everything you want to know is there until, you know, the next year comes along and you get like the next year spiffy versions of things.
So do you think if this is going to be like an online broadcast type event, what does registration look like for it? Is it just like have a backdrop account and check a box? Or is it a separate system?
I think a certain amount of registration increases interactivity, right? Like if somebody just is automatically invited to it, it's easy to ignore. We'd like to sort of get RSVPs basically, and maybe get questions, remind people to tune in, let them know what's going on. Like the more busy it can seem, I think the better. But there's no need to charge anything, for example.
Yeah.
But
I
Apple-
also think I like the idea of collecting like an email address from people where we could send a newsletter specifically about the event. Might be different than, you know, those are different people than the ones who want to hear random updates from Backdrop. Be like, I know what's going on in Backdrop. Just tell me when I need to be there for my session. I also think that'll help us track interest differently too, or like these are people who were interested in watching this broadcast style event versus these are just everybody else on our mailing list. But I think that I like that we don't charge anything for it. I think keeping it a free event is going to be good. I also think it might be good to come up with this list of questions, like things we might want to know about people. We don't have to do that right now, but just kind of put your thinking hats on, like, what do you want to know about people who are going to be attending this event? Are they evaluating Backdrop? Are they using Backdrop? Do they have any current, like, what is preventing you from adopting Backdrop might be a good question. And if we can answer that question by putting a session into the schedule, that would also be good. So just getting some kind of a, that sort of information. Do we care about like where they are in the world, what languages they speak? I don't know, like, are we care about what their websites do? I don't know what this question should be, but.
I think the broadcast event, if you make it registration, you'll lose some people. But I'm just thinking what Apple did. They had their broadcast event, you didn't have to register to watch it. And then they had follow-up events targeted towards different needs, and those things you registered for.
That's interesting. I wonder if we could do a registration for specific stuff. Like we could have like the first half of the day just be like, it's going to be on YouTube live streamed and you can watch it if you want without having to register. But then if you want email notifications about what's coming up or whatever, we could have like a second tier, and then maybe we could have more information about.
Or if you wanted to participate in some forums on different subjects. I was just looking at the Drupal Asheville conference. They're working on something too along these lines, and you can see what they're doing. I didn't register for it yet. They're charging $10 to register for it. I don't know if they give you a T-shirt or what it does, but they have a registration and they have different forums set up where people are going to get together, and they have presenters that are going to present on a number of different topics. None of which I thought I would understand. So I haven't decided to register for anything yet. But we could see, that's another model to look at anyway.
All right. Hey, I'm excited that this has sparked discussion. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in a noisy environment for a few minutes, so I'm going to be on mute. So I'm not going to be able to participate for a little while, but I'm listening.
All right. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think I like the idea of having a free event. I like the idea of just sort of broadcasting into the world and letting anyone who wants to watch it watch it. But I also like this idea of like giving people, like, if you want to just watch something, that's fine. But if you want to participate in something, then there's a second step of registration. And that could be like, we'll send you the Zoom meeting info and you can join in rather than just watching the video. And that might be a good way to divide that, where it's like, if you want to just watch, that's fine. If you want to talk, if you want to ask questions, if you want to participate in a forum, we need a way to give you access to that. And that could work for the whole day. That could work for, if we wanted to divide it into, you only need access to this particular hour, we could do that too. I don't know. I also feel like for this first attempt, maybe it would be better just keep it simple rather than trying to have a bunch of specific focus areas. And after the first event, if it goes really well, we won't be like, hey, we learned from the first event that we need a specific focus area on blank. And then the next time we can do that and we can spend more time there. But I think maybe having two-tier, like watch for free, don't need to register, want to participate, sign up form, we'll send you the information you need to participate, might be a really clear way to divide that.
Mm.
Some of the events that I've seen lately, they have a broadcasted event, which is not live per se. It's a broadcast, but they have a live chat going along with it, so that people can ask questions as the thing proceeds and whatnot, and people can monitor the chat and they can ask questions in the chat and that sort of thing. So that makes it more live than just a broadcast recorded event.
Yeah, that might be too. I mean, I don't know if we're going to end up using Zoom for this thing, but we could look at like the software Luke mentioned that Badcamp's going to be using and see what kind of tooling they have around the like live chat component. I imagine that'll probably be something where we still need to email people access to get to that. But yeah, I also like that. Then if we did have any pre-recorded session parts of it, we could still have that conversation going. Or we could just leave that open all the time, let people comment throughout the whole thing. But yeah, there's a lot of good options there about how to do stuff like that.
Mm. Yeah, sounds good.
My animals really want to leave the room for some reason. Sorry about
Is this a cat?
There's a cat and a dog. The dog
Yeah.
is knocking on the door.
Amazing.
I don't know what's going on over there.
Can I ask one last question, not regarding the conference, but regarding there was an issue that there might be a possibility to have Google ad vouchers for Backdrop. Is there any new development?
We sent an email off to the Software Freedom Conservancy, which is our fiscal and legal sponsor. And they were going to have their lawyer review the terms of service that Google provided for the ad grants system, because we wanted to make sure we weren't violating anything in there by accepting the grant. But we haven't heard back from them yet. So I can send them another email today and find out where we are on that. I know sometimes their lawyer has like cases to deal with, and reviewing legalese is probably not high on their priority list. So it probably wouldn't hurt to nudge that along, but we are working on it. It looks like we are probably eligible for it, as Backdrop's nonprofit status would work. We just want to make sure that it's not going to jeopardize anything else that we've got going on.
Yeah, because this would be a great project for Q3 or maybe after the summer break.
Yeah,
because people are Googling for backdrop alternative, WordPress alternative, what CMS should I choose when I'm an agency, whatever. This would be great, a great project to tackle.
Yeah, I think I don't remember exactly what it was, but the Conservancy had one of their other partners had gotten a Google ad grant and it didn't work for them for some reason. And so they were also going to ask like, what was the problem, so that if we do get it, we might be able to address that from the very beginning and be like, this happened last time the Conservancy got this grant, how can we prevent it? But yeah, I agree the timing is good. And I also think the pressure is off a little bit for now that 777 end of life has been extended. And I think that it's gonna maybe open up new opportunities for people who hadn't, they've sort of been like, oh, I don't know, I guess maybe I'll just go to 888 or 999, I suppose, and 888 instead. And now they might be like, okay, well now we have time, let's reevaluate and see what options are. And so I think it would be important to get Backdrop out in front of all of those people. So I agree, now is a good time and it would be good to get moving on that.
And even if it's going to be rejected, we could prepare some landing pages in order to bring down the click cost. Even if it's been rejected, it's worth the work.
Yeah. Do you?
Because people are searching for alternatives.
Yeah. Do you have experience with creating those kind of custom landing pages for specific targets? Would you be willing to help us with that? Because
sure.
I know we've had it's been on our to-do list for a long time and it's not gotten any attention. But it might be good if you could help with that.
Yeah, sure.
That would be great.
Because one important parameter of Google Ads is the landing page experience, which influences the price very, very significant in a very significant way. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Sure. I'm just going to see if I can find build specific landing pages. So here's an issue I'm just going to throw into the chat. It looks like this was this isn't the right one. This is for specific organizations so that they could promote that page. There's another one I think that was for, maybe it wasn't called landing pages. We did have an issue something that was about incoming traffic to specific pages. What might you call those? I don't know. I'll try and find the issue and maybe I'll post it in Zulip if I find it. But anything else related to outreach we should be thinking about right now? Nope.
Yep.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap up this meeting? I'll do a little research on trying to get that issue and at least point you in the right direction to that. But I think the way that would work is we would just need I don't know, a node or a layout or something on backdropcms.org that would do that. And if you're not already an editor on that site, we can make you an editor, and then you should be able to have the ability to make those changes.
Send you the link I'm working on. Yep.
Ooh. Cool.
This is about the entity registration I was talking about at the beginning of the meeting. Maybe you want to check it.
Cool. Looks fancy. All right. Well, I think Luke is probably still in noisy land, but Sarvashi, do you have anything else you'd like to add today? Nope.
I'm listening, but nothing to say.
I'll look into the Mautic. I need to see if I can use it, so I'll start.
That'd be great. Okay. Let's go ahead and I'm going to turn off the broadcast. And if you guys are interested in joining in 8 minutes, we will try and start up our weekly developer meeting.
Yeah, we're back.